Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. It's an incredible honor to have Nintendrew on my station. Is that how I say it? Nintendrew?
Absolutely.
Did I say that correctly?
Yep.
It's phonetic. It makes sense. Now guys, so today is an awesome day for me. I'm at Corgs Retro Gaming Expo in Columbus, Ohio. Now what's cool about this is it's an amazing convention, as you can attest.
Oh yeah.
Great show put on by Gary Canucci and the other Gary, who nobody seems to know his last name, but it's a great retro gaming show. I hit 5,000 subscribers today, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I am sitting here with a man who has 365,000 subscribers. So he has 360,000 subscribers more than me, which is really hilarious because he's half my age, basically. But it's so cool that you're on my channel. I really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah.
So what I'd like to talk about today is 3 things. Your favorite game of all time.
Ooh, okay.
And how you got into YouTubing, how that started, why, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm a retro guy, since I like to tell stories and go back a ways, how you got into video gaming at all. Like, when did video games become a thing to you? When did you discover them? And so let's get to it. So why don't we go in chronological order?
Sure.
What was your first video game?
Oh, my first video game, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think the first game I ever played was Jazz Jackrabbit on PC, MS-DOS game that was Epic Mega Games at the time.
Was that also a handheld game, like for the GBA?
They made a GBA version. It's very different from the PC version.
Okay, because
wait a minute, hold on. You said Jazz Jack what?
Jazz Jackrabbit.
We've got Steve Wright over here butting in.
And, oh no, I was about to say,
yeah,
y'all can't see me, but I'm saying you
interesting
said Jazz Jackrabbit. I'm like, whoa.
It's interesting that you mentioned Jazz Jackrabbit because my brother, who I grew up gaming with, like we would go to the arcades and play Frogger and all those great old Donkey Kong and all those old great games. He mentioned to me that years later, when he had kids, they had Jazz Jackrabbit on the GBA.
Oh.
And I was like, that seems so random, and that you're mentioning that now is crazy. So that's the first recollection you have of a video game. Now, how did that come about?
It was my uncle had, I believe he had the pair of floppy disks that were, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 disks, but it was a shareware version of Jazz Jackrabbit.
Now, was this like you would go over there for like holidays or something?
It was like when he would visit, he would have.
Oh, okay.
Like, I want to say. It might have been that he had, because I've got some family that is into kind of like the current edge of technology. So
he would bring over a computer game?
I think he had a laptop, I want to say,
in
the 90s that had
cool.
Jazz Jackrabbit.
Wow. Now, was he the cool uncle, that kind of thing? Yeah, so a lot of fun.
Yeah,
excellent.
Definitely made an impression, for sure.
And what kind of game is it, and what are your memories of it?
It is a shooter platformer, so kind of just like the elevator pitch I would give would be Mega Man mixed with Sonic.
Excellent. It's interesting that you called it a shooter platformer, because some people which I call a platform shooter, which is basically the same thing. Some people call that a run and gun game.
Yeah.
I don't consider a platform shooter a run and gun game, because to me that brings to mind like something like Akari Warriors or Commando.
I think of Contra.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know. See, to me,
Contra's
Contra's a platform shooter.
Yeah.
But I get why people call it a run and gun game, and that's legitimate. But just to me, I think of like a top down when you're running ahead. To me, that's more of a run and gun. But hey, this is just semantic. Well, 1943.
That's more of a shooter.
That's a shooter. That's a vertical shooter.
Yeah.
But to me, run and gun is something like Akari Warriors or something like Commando, where you're our Frontline or something like that. But anyway, we're getting way off course here. Jazz Jackrabbit. What kind of game it is, briefly? Basically?
So it's level based. You've got lots of secrets hidden in different places. There's like walls that you can travel through that aren't immediately visible as like secret areas, things like that.
Right. So it's kind of a deep game for its genre.
Yeah, for sure. And it was definitely, in my opinion, it was Cliff Bleszinski's answer to Sonic the Hedgehog gaining popularity in the 90s. So,
and you say the GBA version is, you know of it, but it's a lot different?
I have it, and it is drastically different.
And you bought it because of your memory playing that game?
Yeah, for sure.
And what genre is it? Is it also a platform shooter?
It is also a platform shooter, but I would say it is far more, it relies a lot more on honestly, like kind of RPG elements. Like you'll talk to a character, if I remember correctly. I think there's like missions where you'll like talk to a character or read a brief or something and have to it almost strikes me as maybe a less linear game, whereas
interesting.
Jazz Jackrabbit, the original, is like you go start to finish, very much like a Sonic level.
Right.
But you have a gun.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Your entrance into gaming was Jazzy Jackrabbit. That's fascinating that my brother just happened to mention that.
Yeah.
That's one of the very few games he's ever mentioned beyond the early 80s arcade. So that's really a crazy coincidence. All right. Next up, let's get to how you got into YouTubing. Like, how did that come about?
Well, in the mid 2010s, I guess it would have been, I was getting more into game collecting myself, and I was watching channels like Metal Jesus Rocks, like John Riggs, and that
Great
kind of that whole
dudes,
crew.
right?
Yeah,
Love those guys. They're awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, and I was inspired by them. I found that like my passion for the retro gaming space was growing, and I think what really was the big, I guess, inception of my shift on YouTube, because I've had a YouTube channel since 2008, I think, something
That's
like that.
how he has so many subscribers. He started when it was easy to get a bunch fast. Now it's hard.
No, I mean, you're joking, but it's not. You're not far off, because
Right.
when I chose to shift to Nintendrew and do retro gaming content, I had 1,000 subscribers at that point. And I think genuinely, when people ask me, like, a rule of thumb I go to is, I think that going from 0 to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube is harder than going from 1,000 to 100,000.
Right.
I think that first
I've heard that. Yeah,
baseline,
that first 1,000, because it's just hard to get any traction.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So I was watching these channels, and I was building my own game room, and I was sharing like image albums online of like just showing pictures of the game room in progress as I was building it.
Right.
And I feel like some folks were telling me like, oh, this is really cool, you should do a video tour. And at some point, I was like, yeah, why not? I've done a few image albums and shared them with friends. Like, I'll do a quick little video tour. It's no longer public on my channel, so you can't go back and find this. But the first retro gaming centric video I did was a game room tour, and it was a blatant ripoff of Jason of Metal Jesus. And
Right.
he did, like, I've even got the like 3/4 camera with the desaturate filter on it, the rock music, like it is exactly Metal Jesus.
People love game room tours.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really, the game room tour I've done, it's one of my more viewed
Yeah,
videos,
yeah.
just because people really enjoy seeing what kind of collection you have, how it's set up, what kind of aesthetic you give it.
Absolutely.
And everything.
And I, like I mentioned, I had 1,000 subscribers at the time.
Right.
And after, I think, it was like a week, it got about 25,000 views, and I was like, okay, like,
Nice.
there's something
yeah.
here. Like,
And that was pretty exciting. Your first video that
Absolutely.
really blew up.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. All right. That's awesome. All right. So cool. So let's get to it. Your favorite video game of all time.
My
Now,
favorite game of all
we
time.
were talking earlier about your Desert Island video game isn't necessarily your favorite video game, because there's some video games you can just play forever because they're so deep or they're vast, or you could just keep trying to beat your high score or whatever. But then there's also your just favorite go-to game for just fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to go with just your favorite game of all time.
Oh.
Not necessarily your Desert Island game, but just your favorite.
That's tough, because, like, yeah, my go-to answer for my favorite game, bar none, generally is Super Paper Mario on the Wii, which
Nice.
is a weird pick, especially
Yeah.
even within the Paper Mario fandom. There's folks that do not like Super Paper Mario, but
Right.
I have
Idiot! Dumb choice.
We've got Joe from Video Games Monthly over there,
Dumb choice.
which he's too ugly to show on my channel.
Yeah.
So he's
Gets
just gonna
demonetized.
What a dumb choice.
he's just gonna be over there. So I think that's a perfectly fine choice. Now,
This interview has gone off the rails.
now Steve over here is also trying to ruin my video. Meanwhile, the two of us are
Oh, my
trying to make a good
goodness.
video here.
Stupid
Yeah, just having a
idiot.
good time. All right, so Super Paper Mario, awesome. Now you've also mentioned that you like Star Fox 64.
Yes, so that would be my Desert Island answer.
Oh, okay.
For Super Mario 64, or no, sorry, Star Fox 64.
Star Fox
rather.
64,
Yeah,
right.
Star Fox 64. Star Fox 64 is to me the most endlessly replayable game I have ever experienced. Like,
It's a great game. It's very intuitive.
yes, and I feel like that's one of those that, like, even if you were to just like try to find, like, play every route and find everything the game has to offer,
Right.
you would be spending, that's like one of my summers as a kid,
Right, right.
But the fact that it is adaptive to your play style, it challenges you no matter what level you're playing.
Oh my goodness.
Like, you have this.
You talk. You and you, shut up.
Oh my
All right,
goodness,
we're going.
so funny. You
All right.
upload every part of this video, please.
Oh, we are.
Oh my god.
But we got to keep going.
Oh,
All right, so
oh
Star
my
Fox
God.
64 is
I'm
one
trying
of.
to be quiet.
All right, shut up, Steve. Star Fox 64 is one of the few Nintendo 64 titles I still play pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And so I totally get it. It's still a great game.
Yeah.
So,
I'm tears, I'm crying.
sort of, I'm curious. Have you ever played Space Invaders for the Nintendo 64?
Yeah.
It's an interesting version of the game. So the original Space Invaders is very much about timing and just simple shooter.
Actually, no. Now let me correct. I don't know that I've necessarily played 64. I think what I was thinking of, I've played some of the Game Boy version actually. What's interesting to me is it's got there's a special version of Space Invaders on the Game Boy cart that you can only play with the Super Game Boy.
Yeah,
On
right.
the Super Nintendo. I think that's what I was thinking of. So
Yeah,
I
that's
may not have
cool.
played
It's
the
very
64
arcade accurate. The N64 one's weird. It's kind of a bulkier shooter, and it's not quite as polished as the original, but it's an
Okay.
interesting game. Anyway, you guys know I'm old school. You know I'm retro. I'm going to bring up Space Invaders when we start talking about Nintendo 64. But anyway, great choices. Star Fox 64, an amazing game. Anything else you care to say about that particular game, Star Fox 64, and why it's so great?
I think it's just like, even if you know everything that it has to offer, it's still fun to play. It's one of those
Right.
that's just really fun to go back to.
You can beat it, and then a week from now, you might want to beat it again because it's so much fun.
Yeah. It just does not get old.
Yeah, I agree. It's an amazing game, and it's challenging without being frustrating. It hits that sweet spot where it's still a challenge, but it's never frustrating. And when you get killed, you kind of feel like it's your fault. It's not the game's fault. If you know what I mean? There's not really cheap deaths.
And I feel like, I'm sure there are other games that have done this, but it's one of the only ones that comes to mind when I think of a game that has that kind of adaptive difficulty where you're not choosing easy, medium, hard when you start, but depending on how many enemies you kill and whether or not you're able to find certain secret exits of levels.
Incredible AI for the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was ahead of its time a little bit, or at least, on the cutting edge. I mean, amazing stuff. So, yeah, great game, great choices again. Guys, Nintendrew, the guy could stomp me into the dirt regarding YouTube, but I could probably take him in a fist fight, so we're kind of even in that regard.
Hey, I'll give a plug briefly for my. I do have a video essay on Super Paper Mario. If anybody thinks
excellent.
it's terrible, or if you've never heard of it, go see what you think of my ill-informed opinions.
Excellent. So, guys, if for some strange reason you're subscribed to me, but not to Nintendrew, that's very unlikely. Maybe my mom. So, you've got to check out Nintendrew's channel. I mean, for sure. I subscribed today, as a matter of fact.
We appreciate you for it.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, when it's like a piece of, a grain of sand on the beach. One subscriber.
Every subscriber is valuable.
It really is,
Especially
guys. Yeah, because I'm an important subscriber, not just any run-of-the-mill subscriber. Not really. It's all the same. Anyway, guys, I don't know what I'm talking about now. We better end the video. All right, guys, thank you so much for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Nintendrew, it's been an incredible honor.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, check out Nintendrew's videos. 5,000 subscribers. Help me get to 10,000. Tell your friends. All the good stuff. Share, like, subscribe. Comment. What is your favorite game of all time? When did you discover YouTube? Whether you're a YouTuber or just somebody that enjoys watching YouTube, when did you discover the platform? And what was the other thing we discussed? Oh, your first game.
Yeah.
When did you first get into gaming? For me, it was 1975, back in the dark ages, when you were just a mere blip on the radar.
Did you play
were
games
not-
on an abacus then? Is that
Right. Yeah, we just threw some dirt. We just threw dirt at a piece of glass.
Sticking hoop.
Stick and hoop. Yes. We actually, when we were kids, we would make pinball machines. We would get some wood we would find on a construction site and some nails that they were throwing in a scrap heap.
Really?
And we would hammer them into a board, put it on a ramp, and we would put rubber bands, and we would make little paddles or flippers. We would make pinball
That is
machines.
fascinating. That's ingenious.
It was insane. We had nothing. We had no money. We had nothing to do, so we made pinball machines.
That's sick.
All right, we're getting way off the radar here. And Steve and Joe over here are about to kill us because we're totally killing their buzz.
No.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again. Thanks for being on my channel. This has been a blast.
Absolutely.
The quickest 14 minutes of the day, anyway. All right, guys. We'll talk to you in another video. Again, thanks for being on.
Of course.